Hi, I'm Jen Trechek.
And I'm Dr. Onyudi.
And welcome to Season 6 of the Irish Occupational Therapy Podcast. This season, we're focusing on occupational therapy in physical health. OTs play a crucial role supporting people to recover, adapt and return to the occupations that matter most.
We'll be exploring real-world practice, innovation, challenges, and the evolving role of occupational therapy across physical health services in Ireland and beyond.
So whether you're a clinician, a student, a user of services, or just passionate about occupational therapy, we're glad you're here. Let's get started. And very welcome to this episode of the Irish Occupational Therapy Podcast. We're delighted today to be joined by Michele Roys. Michele is a Limerick-based author who has recently launched a book about her experience of living with a range of different conditions. So Michele, you're very welcome. If it's okay, would you just give us a little bit about your background and what led you to writing this book?
Oh, thank you, Jen. Thank you, Anya. I'm lovely to be here with you today. And well, my background, I'm actually born in Brazil. And as a young person, I've always been very driven, very self-sufficient. At 17, I went to India on my own to do voluntary work there. And from there, it started a lifelong with traveling and helping in 4 continents, 10 countries, very business-oriented person, very ambitious and driven, and a mother of 2, at the time, young boys, until my life changed when I ended up in hospital with a suspected stroke. And from there was a diagnosis of trigeminal neuralgia, which for everybody, most people listening will understand that. What is that? I know it's a tongue twist. I didn't even know myself, and it really results to a lot of pain. It's considered one of the most painful conditions known to medicine, and to even get my head around that and wrap the amount of pain when you're somebody that's a doer, a type A personality, very driven, to all of a sudden your body's saying no, and you're on I said 10 in a pain spectrum is wrong because it's like 100, or more. And you have to really learn to deal with something completely different. Your body is going one way and your mind is racing another way. And having to live with myself on that point of you're living with a suicide disease. Most people in this predicament, can't continue going because it's so difficult. So I had to learn to change all of that for myself. And it's been a journey of 7 years now. So my book was part of that process of me understanding myself. So I journaled a lot, getting to process what I was going through. And my book was basically the grief cycle that I had to go through. The anger, the denial, the bargaining, to finally slowly accepting, and then learning to put new systems in place so that I could show up for myself, for my family, with the different conditions that I have been, let's say, it's a challenge to accept it, but that I currently experience this, because I think how we say and what we say has a lot of meaning to ourselves and our body. So reattuning that for myself. So it's been a journey through not only trigeminal neuralgia, but then diagnosed with fibromyalgia and Lyme disease. So it's been a lot.
And when you were diagnosed, Michele, with the trigeminal neuralgia, were you told at that point that many people with that condition go on to harm themselves or to end their lives?
Not in the beginning. When I was first told, basically it's a rare disease, not much is known about it. We have ruled out a tumor, we have ruled an aneurysm, we have ruled out MS, but you need to go to a neurologist and continue the research. So it wasn't much, when I first got the pain, I felt like half of my face had fallen. And when you get an anesthesia for your teeth and you feel that fullness in your face, that's what happened to me. So I really felt like someone was cutting my face open with a knife, and that fullness with ants crawling all over my face, lightning shocks, and feeling like literally my head was about to explode. It was a crazy pain, but it lasted for seconds, about 30 seconds the first episode, and then that's kind of what the neuralgia, because it's nerve pain, it comes in strokes and episodes that we call it. But it went on from trying to get that, is it really trigeminal neuralgia? Why do I have 2 weeks later both sides of my face in pain? Usually you only get it on one side, and then widespread pain on my body. Why is that happening? So it was a really slow process of even being able to get that diagnosis, because it was more complex. You're not the the text box neuralgia. And then it comes into research and getting into the Facebooks and getting into Facial Pain Association in the States have been extremely valuable resource that I've gotten in touch with, and now I've been able to collaborate a lot with them. But I had to learn and understand my condition, so I was actually better equipped to even see the doctors. Wait, the first neurologist took 5 months on a private list, for in the public sector was a year as an urgent patient. So all of these things, the time it takes, meanwhile you're trying to deal with amount of pain, all the different medications, try this, try that, try the other, the side effects, all in my mind is like, okay, I need to get back to work, I need to get back to work, I need to get back to work. And my body was just like, you're not getting anywhere. So having to even understand that for myself took a long time, because, if you break your bone, it's 6 to 8 weeks, you're back, right? It can heal, it can start doing a little bit better. But when your body goes in complete shutdown and you're in pain, that clothes can cause pain, if you can imagine that. And for the trigeminal neuralgia, wind, makeup, brushing your teeth, eating, the smallest things trigger a bout of pain. And this is pain that causes you to fall down on the floor in so much pain, or causes you to be so sick that you're throwing up in the bathroom. It's a different level altogether. So going back to your question, Jen, I didn't know it in the beginning, but I found out quite fast, even on the Facebook support, of how debilitating people felt and how downtrodden and how they really wanted to end their lives. So I had to look at other ways to help myself, because I didn't want to continue pulling my mindset down. I said, no, I need to get positive input. I need to be looking at different ways that I can strengthen my mind. So God, for me, is my anchor. I'm a real strong believer, and having him there as my foundation. But having to reach for myself that point that I felt, 2 years in this journey, not only have we not gone far, let's just say, with everything that I had tried, but in the middle of the pandemic, to top it off, so that means that all your appointments, woof, gone down the window. And I reached my rock bottom. And I remember literally lying down in bed, curled in a fetal position, and just like crying to God. I was so frustrated that I couldn't find an answer, and there's nobody that could give me an answer. And you would go to these specialists that are specialists, but they didn't have an answer for me. It was really challenging. And in that moment, I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, if you can't take this pain away, then take me, because I can't keep living like this. And sitting with that and feeling right in there that God just gave me comfort. And the best way I can explain is like a wrap of a warm blanket around me that just gave me that peace to say that I've got you and that I can still help you through it. It wasn't audible. It was just a sense inside that gave me a little bit of hope again. And, the images of my own boys, seeing their faces, how they needed me, really made me feel that deep desire to know, I'm going to change this. And that's where I started, making small decisions, the small wins that I call, making that, okay, getting up in the morning, making my bed, which is a struggle. If anybody that are facing pain, if you have your medication on top of it, you're feeling overwhelmed. So one side of your bed is made and the other one, you rest so you can make the other side of the bed. This is the amount of chronic fatigue that I was dealing with. But each and every single part of that was stacking up and started making, okay, I got that done. But yeah, it was a process, a huge process.
Your book is called But You Look Fine. And a big part of fibromyalgia as well, I'd be more familiar with fibromyalgia than trigeminal neuralgia, but a lot of it is structurally no change, or it's unseen, and a sense sometimes of, from some places, oh, it's in your head, and it's very hard to see how challenging it is. You know, why can't you get up every day? You know, what is the challenge? How do you deal with that?
Yeah, Jen, that's exactly why the book is called "But You Look Just Fine." And even for myself, you look at myself in the mirror, and I will look at myself in the mirror and it's like, what is wrong with you? Why is my body reacting this way? It doesn't compute, right? And I had to stop and be able to understand that on the outside, which I also have to say, I'm very grateful that I didn't look on the outside what I was feeling inside, because it would have been horrible. And I'm a bit vain. So that would have been quite something, you know. But it feels into that goes into that judgment of yourself as, is it all in my head? Like literally, you know, am I making this up, or what is causing it? And I had to remember the type of person that I was before all of this happened. I wouldn't stop for anything. Like, I literally fell down my stairs, and writing my book was one of the things that I remember this. Fell down my stairs, 7 steps. I broke my toes, busted my ankle, ruined my back, and yet the next day I was just like, it's okay. After going to the hospital, after all of this stuff, I was back at work, at home. I remember with my computer, my husband had put in, you know, with the cast and everything on my foot, and it's just like, I can still work because I can sit down, you know, take me the medication, the painkillers, and I'll still be able to do it. So I never stopped for anything. And that type of person will never have stopped to be in bed, you know, and never been able to even play sick because that just never computed for me. So having to remember, and even I worked with a therapist, and like that is something that is so important for everyone that's going through challenges in their life, whatever part, you know, be it pain, be it a loss or anything, to work with someone that can understand and can help you through it, because the mental load is very strong. And you have to balance between what people see and what they expect from you, and then how you take care of yourself, knowing that I'm not making this up, and I wish this pain wasn't even here. Having so many people look at me and say, but you look just fine. Are you sure you're still sick? And you're like, oh my God. Look, you have no idea what I'm actually going through. And I always put on a brave face because I've always had to anyway with everything in my life. But now having to deepen that for myself and hold myself and say, it's okay, Michele, you know what you're going through. You know how hard it is for you to show up every day, but you keep showing, and that's what matters. And that's what I'm trying to help other people to see, that we need to educate others to understand the pain that we're going through, but at the same time, having their validation not doesn't matter. We need to be able to secure ourselves and be grounded in ourselves, knowing what we're going through, and knowing the challenges that it is to get up in the morning, to make our bed, to get dressed, or to show up for an event, because we don't have that resource of energy like other people do. That's okay, you know.
As I listen to you, Michele, it resonates so clearly, because my heart is actually racing, like really racing. Because I know, like, when I spoke to you, I was saying I'd met your sister before, and I too would have had, I had a head injury 16 years ago. And that sense of validation for yourself, of going, this pain is real, is so difficult, I think, in those early stages. And when I say early stages, I mean the first 3 years of actually just accepting that I don't and I can't live the life I lived 3 years prior to that. But it takes so long, I think, psychologically. Well, it took me so long psychologically to be able to let go that I wasn't the person prior to the head injury. You know, and it's I think that piece, when you describe there of like the journey of getting support, getting medical appointments, it's such a difficult journey when you're living with chronic fatigue, chronic pain, and then chronic lack of occupational engagement. The basics, you have to weigh up and balance. Will I make the bed, or will I make my breakfast?
Absolutely.
Will I make my breakfast or dry my hair? Will I have a walk or lie down for the rest of the day? And it's a constant balancing act that doesn't always work out well.
No, and that's exactly it, Anya. It's about us finding the new norm for us And sometimes you said exactly there, what do I do? What is the trade-off that I'm doing right now? And we go to that spoon methodology, right? How many spoons do I have today? And how can I use this today? If I have 5 spoons, that's the energy that I have. And then there are days that you have a little bit more and you decide to cook, and then you decide to do put a load of laundry in, and you do the dishes, and that's it. Then you have a flare-up afterwards. You're like, oh crap, maybe I should have just picked one. Just one. But it's constantly relearning that, because my mind goes into, yeah, you can do this, that, and the other. And how can I hold myself with kindness, compassion, especially self-compassion, when I can't be that woman that I used to be before? In the beginning was like, can I walk 50 meters? Can I go to my bathroom? That's what you're dealing with. And then having to pace at a snail pace when you used to go 1,000 miles an hour. I say I was like a Ferrari before. Now I have a Ferrari body, but the Fusca body inside, the engine is like barely going anywhere. And being okay with that, which is that part of allowing yourself to be kind to yourself in a completely different way. And a lot of people that are self-driven and very ambitious and the type A personality, we override all of that. We're like, no, we can fix this, we can do this. And it's more like mind over matter, detach yourself. And no, how do we reconnect again? How do we listen with intent to ourselves and saying, what do I need right now? How can I go through this right now? What are the things that I can show up for? And I had a very busy couple of weekends, and I was speaking church on Sunday. So the whole week prior, my choice was I wasn't going to go out. And I do every week with my family. We used to go dancing. It's my kind of therapy, it's dance therapy. But I had to choose to not do that. Allow my body the extra rest that it needs, not only because of my cold and everything else, but the Lyme disease, the treatments, everything that I have to think and take into consideration so that I could present myself fully on that event on Sunday for Mother's Day. So for me, what are the challenges? What do I have to let go? What do I have to have boundaries around that I protect, and they're like non-negotiables, so I can show up in this version that I am today, And for me, being able to be in a podcast and having my own podcast is my way to contribute, so I can feel and go back to the point of having the occupational therapy, which is also part of your brain to keep it functioning and keeping yourself alive, and that sense of commitment and sense of giving back and sense of supporting and purpose is what propels me to get up, gives me that energy to keep going, because it's not about me. My experience can help so many other people going through something that they're facing right now. So it would be selfish of me to just keep that all for myself. If I can share where I have learned, and I'm still learning, because I feel it's lifelong learning. We might learn a little bit here today, but then we have to continue adjusting so that we are able to show up as we were meant to be, without our identity being wrapped up in my accomplishments, my accolades, or whatever it is. It's who we are as individuals, as women.
There's a big thing there about letting go of the things that no longer serve us, because it sounds like things like your drive, your ambition, your focus, they were real strengths, and they helped you achieve a lot in terms of your travel, in terms of your career. But ultimately, they became things that were harmful in the end, that kind of drive to keep pushing through and not listen, while it helped initially, then became unhelpful and damaging to you. But it takes a big cognitive shift to let go of things that previously were helpful.
Yeah, and to that, Jen, it's what got me here won't get me there, right? But at the same time is, how can I still use that drive to get me up in the morning without it beating me up saying, well, you're not doing this and you're not doing that and you haven't done that, because that little part of us, and I think we all have that critical side of us that's very fast to go tack, tack, tack. It's something that we need to calm down. And what about the other voice that says, wow, look at what you're able to do today. You were able to make yourself breakfast. Well done, Michele. You were able to do that movement class of 10 minutes. Well done. And that's it. And that's good enough. So it's balancing those voices in our heads and shifting into how can it help me. That drive got me through writing my book, which took 4 years. And at the same time, realizing the voices that were coming alongside saying, well, you should have been finished a long time ago because the person who you used to be would have done this in like less than a year. And then saying, well, guess what? I am where I am right now. But then also unpacking that like the onion and saying, what caused me back down there when I was a child to make me be this way, to be such a driven person, to really need the feedback from other people, to be depending, like people pleaser, all of those things. Like having to really sit with that was one of the things that was the hardest for me to do. And yet one of the greatest blessings that I say I can get from this whole experience and to help me love myself better is to understand, well, actually, I did have childhood traumas that I had to deal with and I hadn't given space for it. And so my running was what made me not think about it,
You certainly, when you describe it, Michele, your capacity for self-reflection and to sit to be is so clear. And I also hear that piece as well around how you recarve that sense of purpose and identity for yourself. And I can see too, though, maybe that for maybe not everybody, that the sharing of your story will be important for other people to help them to see, how do I recarve my purpose and identity? That before it was maybe an external accomplishment that gave purpose, like work, doing. And now it's much more internal. It's like, actually, I make my own bed. And that's just for me. Nobody cares really. I make my own breakfast. So to reshape that identity and meaning and purpose, I think it's quite it's a difficult thing to do, I think.
It is difficult. And, even for me, it's been 7 years, going on 7 years. And there's always that little learning because what we've depended on it for so long, then having to reshift and change. We hate changes. That's just how our brains work, right? And you know that specifically how our brains are wired to do certain things like the repetition, forget about it and move on to something else. But no, how can we carve new pathways in our brains that's going to saying like, actually, this is possible. And it's possible in a different way than I thought. And allowing ourselves to be okay with it, I think it's part of the foundation of healing from what I've understood from myself is allowing change, the uncertainty, and the unpredictability of it all. Because not only is your identity changed, what you put your pressure, what you put your thought, what you put every single part of you in has completely taken away. This is not only with pain. I know that the part, of grief that people go through and the uncertainty that we're having right now, the whole world where they are in upheaval. And it's very easy for us to get embroiled on it and completely get into anxiety and all of that stuff. But when we're able to just let go of those things and sit with ourselves and grounding, I feel that part of our healing can start from there, if that makes sense. So yes, it's not the external validation anymore. It's about you internally being able to be happy with who you are, where you are at this moment. Because to be honest, it is so challenging to go through a life-altering experience and then find purpose. And it's like, oh, you can do it like that. No, you're dealing back to that part of the invisibility of it all, right? It's invisible. Your pain is invisible. Nobody can see it. Fibromyalgia, with trigeminal neuralgia, with so many other diseases, people cannot see. But they might see that you're not showing up fully in work. You're not showing up fully for your family and your friends. And they might not understand it, but like, why are you still, like I said, why are you still sick? Are you sure you're still sick? And even with doctors, I think one of the hard part of it is being gaslighted, and you're like, you have no idea what you're actually talking about, sir, because you don't know what I've been through. I live with my body 24/7 every single day. I know what my body is, and having to be a CEO of your own body, understanding your condition better than anybody else so that you actually can come to the table with, these is the data, these are the pain cycles, this is what I've been trying, this is where I found a little bit of relief, this is where I haven't, and being able to see, what, if this person is not supporting me, I need somebody else. How can I make that person or that little multidisciplinary team around me be there for me? And being okay to fire and hire as it is, fire your doctors, your specialists.
That sounds like a huge amount of extra work and energy when you're already not feeling well, trying to navigate the healthcare system and figure out who do I need to see, how do I pull this team together, navigating private healthcare compared to the HSE or public healthcare. In terms of how what would you encourage people in a similar situation to do in terms of navigating that road? And also for healthcare professionals, what do you need from healthcare professionals when you're in that situation?
We'll start with the care professionals. What you need is understanding and an open mind, because they see so many people and it's very easy for them to judge from what they look at. Oh, you just want your medications, or you're just wanting to be sick, or, you want to be off work, or whatever it is that their preconceived idea of what a person is supposed to be like. But no, can you just listen to their story as they're explaining to you? Can you stop for a minute and put yourself in their shoes and say, this is what they're going through? Because you only have a 15-20 minutes with the healthcare professionals if you're lucky. It's very, very challenging. And also to understand that they're already coming with so much frustration. They already waited for their appointment for months, if not years, for them to sit right there with you right now and explain what they're going through, for you to just brush them aside as if nothing has happened. So take the time. Understand that they're having a hard time as it is. Ensure that you are just open. Just open and validate to them. I understand what you're going through. I am sorry what you're going through. Let's see how we can help you. And that makes complete difference for us, now going back to the patient perspective. We're there waiting for these appointments. Your referral letter most likely got lost. For any of your MRIs, I had that happen to me. And you have to use a little bit of energy to follow up on these things. And it can be very depleting, because all you want to do is just take care of your body. But no, you have to be on top of things. Unfortunately, the squeaky wheels do get the grease. And have that referral been received? Do you know how long is it going to take for this scan, for that scan, or for the other? When is the appointment coming? So as a patient, you will have to be on top of it, because unfortunately they won't. Nobody will take care of you better than you. That's the reality of it. And yes, it takes time, and you have to just put a little bit more energy for that, because your health is your wealth. So I say look outside of the box, and don't feel that you can't question the doctors or the consultants or the specialists or whoever they are, because they're also just trying to figure it out, because your case is unique. None of us are the same. So even for instance, I was saying with the Facial Pain Association in the States, they have doctors from Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic. They're on the top-notch neurosurgeons and what's new that's coming up with trigeminal neuralgia. And they have seminars and all of these things that they offer to us as patients and us as providers, so that you can be abreast to what's coming in and what's the best course of action. So I have always been very curious by nature. So I use those things to understand, how can I support myself better? What are the treatments that can help or don't help? It took 4.5 years for my MRI to show that I have a compression. My superior artery is looped around my trigeminal nerve, and that's what causes my pain. For 4.5 years. It's not like I hadn't done the MRIs before, but it was the specific machine with a specific code that could see it differently. When you also keep bringing new people into your circle that have the understanding, and don't settle for something if your gut's telling you it's not right. keep researching. Like my Lyme's was only detected because my blood tests were sent to Germany, and they are specialists in there. We're not, and unfortunately, our field, our health system, is lacking. And it is hard to say that. There's some great people there, but there's some people that could learn a little bit more. So, as a patient, have that little bit of kindness towards yourself to know it's going to be difficult, and we wish it was easier, but it isn't. However, we can also fight for ourselves, and we can also connect with ourselves and seeing how we can help. And then if you can have somebody supporting you, for me, my husband has been, wow, an angel. He is amazing. I'm married for 21 years. I'm so grateful for that. But, coming with me to the appointments. But even that, if you're showing up without a partner or a friend or somebody, they are going to be perceiving you differently. So even understanding that, and you're like, what? All of that forms their biases towards what they're going to say to you and about you. So having someone that comes with you, because you are overwhelmed by that time, you're probably super fatigued, depending if you have to drive, for instance, for me, Cork or Dublin or Galway or other places, and you're, already in that emotional, like, oh, what are they going to say? What's the results? So understanding what you're going to be going through, have that extra support with you, have those questions written out, because your mind might go blank and you might have brain fog. So if you have those questions, you can just read it or give it to the doctor. So those are things that helps me. I'm always looking for answers and different ways that I can help myself. But I've known that holistically has been one of the ways that I have been able to manage. I don't take any medication for my trigeminal neuralgia, which is unheard of. I do chiropractor, acupuncture, massage therapies. I do different food that I eat. I change my whole diet, and mindfulness, meditation, all of those things that has helped me in general. So those are the things that I have found for myself that has been extremely helpful. But you still have the little hurdles to go through, to keep on in this journey.
It's inspiring listening to you, Michele, because I can really relate to that piece, that anybody who's had to attend an appointment with a health professional where you're at the receiving end of somebody's unconscious bias or judgments in how quick you talk, how slow you talk, how you show up. It's in your head. Those off-the-cuff statements that are really difficult as the patient, but actually for anybody listening to this to know that you can advocate, that you can, as you said, hire and fire. If you've got that choice, difficult, if you're in the public system, how we encourage people to advocate for better health services, to bring their data, as you said. You brought the cycles of data, and then to look holistically at what are the other things in my life that will support, and not just one aspect of it.
Tell us about your podcast.
Oh, my podcast. Well, it's a weekly podcast, so every Wednesday it comes out, and I talk a little bit about everything. So it's about dealing with life when life changes. It's about resilience. It's about overcoming, and I do have guest people as well on my podcast that either are experts on the field or doctors, or like I said, I had the Facial Pain Association as well, or like Michele Roys we had recently, talking about resetting our body and our nervous system and different things that people have learned through their own journeys. And it's a way that people can connect with themselves in a holistic way. So it's not just about you thinking, as Anya just said, there's only one way and nothing around it. No, I want to bring about different ways that we can help our bodies, our mind, and our spirit to continue flourishing when life changes and we don't know what to do. The things that we listen to really helps us.
Did you at any point in your journey come across an occupational therapist? Were you offered OT? Was that part of your team at any point?
No, I wasn't offered OT, but in my previous work we had OTs in my work as well. And with my kids, I worked with some OTs as well that helped them in their own challenges and they face. So for me, it's always been about researching, and I suppose I find a lot of things out for myself, and then how can I implement, and I pick up from different places. But I think it's a really important support to have, especially to adjust into life. And one thing that I think what OTs do do very well, it's being able to not take, okay, this is your diagnosis, this is it. It's like, how can we improve your life? How can we help you to live with what you have right now? You know, that's from my understanding.
That's our aim, Michele. Like, I remember when I eventually got to see an OT, which was 4 years after the accident. And I still remember it so well. And I remember that lady so kindly, Catherine, because it wasn't these big things that I wanted change with. It was actually real practical, everyday stuff around, you know, I remember at the time I was pregnant and it was like, well, how am I actually going to manage pushing a buggy? How will I manage, you know, folding it up? All the real, and I was an OT, but you can't OT yourself. Well, you can't at a point, but not very well.
Yeah.
And it's the real purpose and meaning in everyday life. They're the real bits that become really, really real.
Yeah, because that stacks up, right? Those small little wins that you're able to accomplish are what gives you then the next step up, step up, step up. But it is the small, tiny parts. And a lot of times we can't see it because we were looking at, I just want to get better. Just give me A to Z, and without having to go through all the letters, just, I want to get there. And it's being able to have somebody that's coaching you along. And for me, I've had people coaching me in this, but it's coaching me in the small steps, the tiny steps, the practical steps. I'm sure, Jen, you can speak more into this, but the importance of knowing that you accomplished something as tiny as making your bed, but it's huge because you're like, you know what? If you haven't done anything else today, I made my bed. Well done. And it was that, and that goes back to showing how I was. That's how terrible, you know, to get out of bed. It was so hard because I didn't have any energy, and you felt like a ton brick had just landed on you. So you have no energy, and your body is hurting every single fiber of its being. So to make your bed is like, I literally climbed Mount Everest. It was that big for me, but now it's become normal, you know.
Thank you so much for your time and for sharing your experience through the book and through your podcast. I think it's invaluable to hear from somebody who has been through a challenge and to learn from their experience. And it just the reassurance of knowing sometimes when you're dealing with a condition that may or may not be that well known, that you're not the only one, and having that shared support is really valuable. So thank you for sharing your experience with us today as well.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Jen and Anya. I really appreciate your time as well. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share about the Michele Roys Show and my book as well. I just want to be able to continue serving and sharing what I can to help others as well in this journey. So thank you for making a positive impact on the world as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michele.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on today's episode of the Irish Occupational Therapy Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening and for being part of our occupational therapy community. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe and share it with a colleague and join the conversation.
We'd really appreciate it. We'll be back soon with more insights into occupational therapy and physical health. So until next time, take care.